Dear friends, welcome to National Resource Centre, Central University of Kerala and to the course on Curriculum, Pedagogy and Evaluation for Higher Education. Today, we will discuss on collaborative and cooperative learning techniques. In the present educational scenario, learning is no more seen only as an intellectual process, but as something that comprises of all facets of an individual's life, which include their role in the society, performance in their workplace, their personal development and physical well-being. UNESCO 1996 in its report Learning the Treasure Within has given 4 pillars of learning. They are learning to know, learning to do, learning to live together and learning to be. The report suggests the need of our present educational system in terms of the 4 pillars, which includes acquisition of knowledge, acquisition of technical and vocational skills, the development of social and interpersonal skills and values such as respect and care for others, an appreciation of the diversity of people, and finally, the holistic personal development of the learner. The teaching strategies and methods used in our educational institutions should therefore cater to the cognitive, affective and psychomotor domain of the learners. 2 such strategies promoting the same are collaborative and cooperative learning, which is based on the constructivist approach. The central ideas articulated in constructivism have been promoted by John Dewey. For Dewey, knowledge emerges only from situations in which learners have to draw them out of meaningful experiences. These meaningful experiences have to be inserted into a social context like classroom, where learners can involve in manipulation of materials and thus develop into a community which constructs knowledge on their own. Only when concrete activities are embedded into learning theories can students learn effectively. That is, they cannot learn through mere rote memorization, but only through directed living. In 1978, Vygotsky put forward his views that for effective learning to materialize, we need to place it in a social context, and that was how social constructivism evolved. Social constructivism considers learning as a social activity. It states that the learning is deeply related to the connection that we have with our fellow human beings, our friends, our teachers, family members, as well as our casual associates and all those whom we interact with. There are many teaching strategies that have been developed based on the social constructivist approach towards learning, and collaborative and cooperative learning are among them. These strategies are based on the concept that effective learning can take place when learners collaborate with one another and discuss their views. In higher education, the learners would be interested and motivated to learn only if they are fully involved in learning. Learning in groups will arouse their interest as it gives them opportunity to actively participate and discuss their ideas and views with their peers. So, first let us discuss on collaborative learning. Collaborative learning is an educational approach wherein groups of students involve and work together to solve a problem, complete an assignment or task, or create a product. Students from different levels work together for a common goal, as they are responsible for their own learning and for others in their group. Students are given opportunities to learn by inquiry under the guidance of a teacher, and at the same time they develop communicative skills, leadership skills and interpersonal skills. Learning collaboratively will give a platform to learners to actively involve and interact with peers, exchange different beliefs, present their ideas, question and defend it. The basic characteristics of collaboration include sharing of work and goals, balance of structure along with a high level of intermediation, interactivity and interdependence. Student learning gets improvised while they engage themselves in enlarged explanations during collaborative interactions. Collaborative learning is based on the view that knowledge is a social construct. Collaborative activities are most often based on 4 principles. So, we will see those 4 principles. The first one is the learner or student is the primary focus of instruction. Interaction and doing are of primary importance. Working in groups is an important mode of learning. And the last one, structured approaches to developing solutions to real world problems should be incorporated into learning. In this method, students can produce the individual parts of a larger assignment individually, and then they can assemble the final work together as a team. Whether for a semester-long project with several outcomes or a single question during class, collaborative learning can vary greatly in scope and objectives. Collaborative learning can be integrated into the classes in a variety of ways. Long-term projects might require a thorough preparation, while other activities like assignments, discussions, debates, small group tasks, etc. will require less preparation. But what has to be kept in mind is that collaborative classrooms or collaborative learning does not mean that there won't be lecturing or note taking or other regular practices. It is just that everything will be integrated and blended together in such a way that the entire learning process provides full scope for interactions and purposeful talks among learners. Next, we will see collaborative learning techniques. The following are a few collaborative learning techniques that can be used in your classrooms. The first one, stump your partner. So, here students take a minute to create a challenging question based on the lecture content taken up to that point. Then students pose the question to the person sitting next to them. To take this activity a step further, ask students to write down their questions and hand them in. These questions can be used to create tests or exams. They can also be reviewed to gauge student understanding. The next technique is think, pair, share or write, pair, share. So, here the instructor poses a question that demands analysis, evaluation or synthesis. Students take a few minutes to think through an appropriate response. Then students turn to a partner or small groups and there they share their responses. Take this a step further by asking students to find someone who arrived at an answer different from their own and convince their partner to change their mind. Student responses are shared within larger teams or with the entire class during a follow-up discussion. The next technique is catch up. In catch up, stop at a transition point in your lecture and have students turn to a partner or work in small groups to compare notes and ask clarifying questions. And after a few minutes, open the flow to a few questions. Then we have round table. round table structures can be used to brainstorm ideas and to generate a large number of responses to a single question or a group of questions. So, here faculty poses question, one piece of paper and pen is given per group. First student writes one response and he says it loud in the group. Then the first student passes the paper to the left, the second student writes the response, etc., and this continues around the group until time elapses. The students may also say pass at any time, and the groups stop the work when time is called. The key here is the question or the problem you have asked the students to consider. It has to be one that has the potential for a number of different right answers. Relate the question to the course unit, but keep it simple so that every student can have some input. And once time is called, determine what you want to have the students do with the list. They may want to discuss the multitude of answers or solutions, or they may want to share the list with the entire class. Then we have the fish bowl debate. Here, ask students to sit in groups of 3. Assign roles for each student. For example, the person on the left takes one position on a topic for debate. The person on the right takes the opposite position for debate, and the person in the middle takes notes and he decides which side is the most convincing and which side provides an argument for his or her choice. Then debrief it by calling on a few groups to summarize their discussions. So, now let us move on to cooperative learning. Cooperative learning is a teaching strategy in which learners work together in small groups so as to achieve shared goals. It promotes socialization and has been proved to be effective irrespective of subjects. The most widely used definition of cooperative learning in education is probably that of Johnson and Johnson. According to them, cooperative learning is an instruction that involves students working in teams to accomplish a common goal under conditions that include the following 5 essential elements. So, only if the 5 essential elements are satisfied, the group work can be called as cooperative learning. So, we will see what these 5 essential elements are. The first one is positive interdependence. The learners in the group are interconnected in such a way that if one person fails to do their part, then the entire group suffers the consequences. So, they are obliged to depend and trust on one another to complete the task. The second element, individual accountability. Every member of the group is held responsible for their part of work as well as for mastering the entire learning material given to the group. The third element, face-to-face promotive interaction. The work should be allotted in such a way that it is a combination of individual as well as group work. The tasks that require the individual performance can be parcelled out and taken up by learners at individual levels. The other part, where the entire group involvement is required, must be done interactively, that is, providing feedback to one another, challenging the reasoning, views and findings of the group members, and thereby teaching and motivating one another. And the fourth element is appropriate use of collaborative skills. Students are stimulated and facilitated to develop and practice trust building, leadership, decision making, communication and conflict management skills. And the last element is group processing. This includes setting of group goals, periodic assessment of how their group is doing as a team, and making changes accordingly so as to improve the functioning of their team more effectively in future. So, these were the 5 essential elements needed for cooperative learning. Cooperative learning is a structured activity where students work face to face in a task. The learners have to take individual responsibility for their work, and also the entire group is assessed. The teacher provides additional resources, asks them specific questions, and thus the teacher maintains control over the class, even if students are working in groups. But in collaborative learning, it is not so. So, that is the difference between cooperative and collaborative learning. Cooperative learning is more structured and the teacher has more control. But in collaborative learning, it is not so. Students come together for a task and the group decides on what materials to choose, how to go ahead, and would it be enough or not. The teacher will not be giving them instructions on all that, though he or she will be available for consultations and would assess the group and also give suggestions on the data they have generated. Though cooperative and collaborative learning can be separately defined, they are in fact not mutually exclusive, but they coexist in most group work learning environments. So, let us now discuss the different cooperative learning techniques. Cooperative learning techniques are very specific cooperative learning strategies that teachers use to organize interactions between students in a class. There are many such techniques, in fact n number of techniques that can be used in classrooms. Some of the commonly used cooperative learning techniques are: first one, jigsaw, which was developed by Aronson. So, in jigsaw, groups with 5 students are set up. A particular topic or a specific learning material is then given to each group member to learn, and then that group member has to teach his topic to his fellow group members. So, first a group is set up, each group will be having 5 students, and each student of the group will be given a subtopic, a different subtopic, and they will have to learn it and teach it to his fellow group members. Now, students who have got the same topic from each group, they will club together, and that is called the expert group, because all groups will be having the same, they will be taking on the same thing, the same subtopics and everything. So, in every group one member will be having the same subtopic. So, first they all will come together and they will learn how to explain and how to learn this subtopic. So, that is called the expert group, and after they learn and discuss on the topic, they will decide like how to explain and teach it to the fellow group members. After all that, after practice in these expert groups, these students will get back to their original groups and then they will teach each other, and after that test or assessment follows. So, this is about jigsaw. The next one is Student Teams Achievement Divisions, STAD, which was developed by Slavin. In STAD, the students are assigned to 4-member learning teams. Each group will have 4 members. The groups have to be mixed in performance level, gender and ethnicity. Then a topic is presented by the teacher. Students work within their teams and discuss with each other, and they make sure that all team members have mastered the topic. The teacher will then conduct a quiz wherein all students have to answer it individually without the help of group members. So, first they learn in groups, but when the quiz comes, they cannot take the help of their group members, they have to answer it individually. So, the quiz scores of each student is compared to their own past averages, and points are rewarded based on how the learner has improved from his previous score. These points of individual learners are then summed up to form team scores, and teams that meet certain criteria may earn certificates or other rewards. Then we have group investigation, which was developed by Sharon and Lazarowitz. In group investigation method, students work in small groups using cooperative inquiry, group discussion and cooperative planning and projects. Students form their own 2 to 6 member groups. After choosing subtopics from a unit that the entire class is studying, the groups break their subtopics into individual tasks and carry out the activities that are necessary to prepare group reports. After that, each group makes a presentation or display to communicate its findings to the entire class. The next technique is think, pair, share, developed by Lyman. Think, pair, share, as it says, this involves a 3-step cooperative structure. The instructor poses a question, and as the first step, the learners think silently about that question. In the second step, the learners form pairs and then they exchange thoughts with each other. And in the third step, the pairs will share their responses with other pairs or other teams or the entire group of the class. Then we have round robin brainstorming, developed by Kagan. Learners are divided into small groups, maybe 4 to 6 members in one group, and one person is appointed as the recorder. A question from a particular topic is posed to the learners. The questions chosen for being put up will be those that may have many answers to it. Students are given time to think about answers, and after the think time, members of the team share responses with one another in round robin style. The recorder writes down the answers of the group members. Then we have team, pair, solo, another technique developed by Kagan. Here, students do problems first as a team, then with a partner, and finally on their own. That is what the name suggests: team, then pair, then solo. So, first they do as a team, then with a partner, and finally on their own. It is designed to motivate students to tackle and succeed at problems which initially are beyond their ability. It is based on a simple notion of mediated learning. Students can do more things with help than they can do alone. By allowing them to work on problems they could not do alone, first as a team and then with a partner, they progress to a point they can do alone that which at first they could do only with help. So, these were the cooperative learning techniques, a few of them, and next we move on to the key elements of collaborative and cooperative learning classrooms. Creating a culture of collaboration and cooperation in higher education classrooms is not at all a difficult task. It just needs proper planning and willingness from the part of the teacher. With the onset of technological revolution in our educational scenario, collaboration would become easier. Learning management systems, social media and other applications provide a platform for the same in our classrooms and thus help in building a community of flourishing learners. So, the following points have to be kept in mind while creating an environment for collaborative and cooperative learning in our institutions. So, we will see what are those points. The first one, sharing of knowledge between teachers and learners. Knowledge transaction should not be a one-way method. it should always be based on mutual sharing between teachers and learners. Next, shared authority between teachers and learners. The authority in collaborative and cooperative learning classrooms should always be shared between the teacher and the learner, unlike the traditional classrooms where teachers have sole authority. Next, flexible classroom climate with full freedom to learners to express their views. The classroom climate should foster freedom to learners to express their views and ideas irrespective of it being right or wrong. Every learner has the right to put forth his ideas, and the teacher should not intervene in between if it is not the correct answer. So, first they have to be listened to completely, and only after they have finished presentation should the teacher intervene and give suggestions. The next is, the classrooms should accommodate all types of learning like independent one-on-one learning, small group learning and large group learning. Since there are different types of learners in our classrooms, it is necessary to design learning activities in such a way that it caters to the needs of all types of learners. Some part of the task can be individual learning, some other part can be small group learning, and some other part can be large group learning, thus giving importance to the needs and likes of all types of learners. The next point is heterogeneous grouping of learners in terms of their ability and achievement, and this is very important. It has to be made sure that while grouping students, each group should have learners of different levels. It is not proper to group all bright students into one group, all average learners to another group, and all weak learners into one. So, utmost care must be taken to make sure that each group has representation of different learners. The next point, teachers as facilitator and mediator should help students connect new information to their experiences and to learning in other areas, and teachers should help students when they are stuck in the process of learning and should guide them to learn how to learn. Teacher should adjust the level of information and support so as to maximize the ability to take responsibility for learning. The next point to be taken care of is, in collaborative and cooperative classrooms, the furniture should be easy to move, enabling easy transitions between group and independent learning. Group activities and tasks require adequate space for movement, and hence classrooms and furniture should be arranged taking into account these needs. Otherwise, it might lead to confusions and create an uncomfortable atmosphere for learning. The next point, reinforce and encourage critical thinking, creativity and communication. The classroom environment and the learning process should be designed in such a way so as to develop critical thinking, creativity and communication skills of the learners. And the next, promoting discussions through offline and online mode using ICT. Face-to-face interactions definitely has to be taken care of while implementing such group works. But apart from that, now with the onset of technology, online interactions can also be made, and thus activities designed should cater to these aspects also. Groups should be given activities and provisions for interacting online, thereby helping them collaborate with each other even after their classroom timings. Next is making learning visible. The students should be given a chance to display their works on big screens in class, and then the teacher can call for discussion so that everyone can see what the group has prepared. And then frequent feedback. Feedback is very important for any task. Only then can learners know if they are moving on the right track. Feedbacks are also important for motivating and encouraging learners to continue and explore deeper into their tasks. So now let us see the role of teachers in collaborative and cooperative learning classrooms. First, the teachers should be creating an inclusive learning environment that can accommodate all types of learners. They should establish a learner-centered learning environment. This includes interactive, meaningful, constructive and reflective processes. The teacher should develop social skills of learners and teach learners to interact with one another and in groups, and thus develop socialization among them. The teacher should act as a facilitator when students are finding trouble with dialoguing with one another in their group or performing roles assigned to them. The teacher should intervene and help such students by offering suitable dialogues and also by changing the roles of students who are not able to cope up with their present roles in the groups. Teachers should also challenge the thinking of learners by probing questions and also provide scaffolding wherever needed. And finally, they must regularly monitor the progress of learners, give frequent feedback to them, guide them for further improvement and suggest modifications wherever needed. Next is assessing learners in collaborative and cooperative learning. Assessing learners in such a setup is not that easy as in a traditional classroom, because here it is just not the academic achievement that needs to be assessed, but it includes assessing learners as a whole on their skills and teamwork abilities. The following are a few approaches by which assessment can be done in collaborative and cooperative learning environments: checklist, rating scale, rubrics, field diary, activity sheets, portfolios, group work questionnaire, group assignments, group presentation, peer assessment and group assessment. So, before concluding, let us also have a look at the advantages and disadvantages of these methods. So, first, the advantages. These methods definitely improves knowledge comprehension and it brings more active involvement in learning. It also increases the motivation of learners to learn. It increases individual accountability and makes learners responsible for their own learning. It increases the ability to adjust and adapt with different types of people, and it improves time management of learners. It enhances interpersonal and communication skills. It increases self-esteem. There is development of positive attitudes towards society among the learners. There is a development of positive social attitudes towards learners with emotional and behavioral disorders, and these methods increases ability to appreciate and consider a variety of perspectives, and also they increase the leadership skills, the decision making skills and problem solving skills. Now, moving on to the disadvantages, we all know these methods are group works. So, definitely the first disadvantage would be that it consumes a lot of time. And then in a group work, there is always the natural tendency for a class to become too noisy. And third, the failure to get along with each other because of varied views and choices. So, some fights or conflicts might come up in the groups. And then ineffective use of team practice time. There are chances that at times learners may do their work only and feel that they have finished regardless of whether their teammates have understood and done it or not. Then there is a possibility of some group members to do all or most of the work while others sit back simply. This is called the free rider effect and is very common in our classes. So, this can be taken care of by the teacher by assigning distinct and specific roles to each member. So, in this module, we discussed about collaborative learning, cooperative learning, the different techniques, the key elements involved in collaborative and cooperative learning classrooms, the role of teachers and the advantages and disadvantages of these methods. To become a successful learner, one needs to have effective communication skills, and this is possible only when learners interact and share their views and knowledge with each other. Learners get an opportunity to examine different perspectives through collaboration, interaction and purposeful talk that will ultimately make them knowledgeable, strategic, self-determined and socially skilled, which is the very basic requirement to become successful in the present era. Strategies like collaboration and cooperation, when implemented in higher education, will definitely help in nurturing learners into responsible citizens who can actively involve and contribute to the economic, social and political arena of our country. So, hope you all enjoyed this session on collaborative and cooperative learning techniques. Thank you everyone.